You're watching Defense Dynamics and I'm Danveer Singh from New Delhi. Israel has launched precision strikes deep inside Iran and shaken the regional stability and also global energy markets. Tensions rise and the Strait of Hormuz gets threatening vital routes, posing global energy shocks. The United States has deployed warships like USS Thomas Hudner to shield Israel and deter Iran. And India's Rudrastra combat drone is set to revolutionize battlefield operations with precision and autonomy. But before we dive into these stories, let's check out the global defense headlines first. Indonesia's PT Sentra Surya Ekajaya has showcased the P-8, a locally developed amphibious light tank, at Expo of Indo Defense 2025. The 12-ton tank is designed for tropical terrains and can be transported by Indonesian Air Force aircrafts. Featuring hybrid propulsion and armed with a 30 mm cannon, the P-8 enhances mobility and firepower for the Indonesian Army. BAE Systems and Avionics are testing the rattling AI suite for Eurofighter Typhoon jets. The AI system enhances beyond visual range combat by reducing pilot workload and integrating complex threat data in real time. Trials aim to improve training and operational efficiency using dynamic AI-driven threat assessment. US lawmakers have criticized the Pentagon's review of AUKUS submarine pact amid support from naval leaders. The review, aligned with the new administration's America First policy, has sparked concerns over strategic credibility. Lawmakers warn that abandoning AUKUS would harm alliance and benefit adversaries like China. Chess Dynamics is accelerating the development of next-generation Sea Eagle FCRO system. Customer demonstrations are scheduled for early 2026, with advanced talks underway for domestic and international contracts. The compact system integrates radar and electronic optical sensors for precise naval gun control. In a dramatic and unprecedented escalation, Israel has launched a wave of precision strikes deep inside Iran, targeting the heart of its nuclear and military infrastructure. This marks one of the most direct and consequential confrontation between the two arch rivals in recent history, shaking the very foundation of regional stability. But this isn't just about Iran and Israel. The tremors of this strike are being felt across the world because what happens next could redraw geopolitical map and rattle global markets. Iran may only account for 4% of global oil output, but its location makes it a strategic juggernaut. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow maritime chokepoint, sees nearly around 20% of world's crude oil pass through it. Any disruption there could send oil prices soaring, reigniting inflation and dragging an already fragile global economy into deeper uncertainty. And if regional powers pick sides like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iraq, the energy equation could shift overnight. Supply chains, trade routes, global investor confidence all hang in the balance. This is more than just a clash of nations. It's a moment that could define the decade in war, in diplomacy, and in the fragile future of global energy security. In other words, it could alter the geopolitics. The first wave of Israeli offensive, which deliberately avoided Iran's vital oil infrastructure, targeted key military installations and nuclear enrichment facilities. That included the highly sensitive Natanz and Fordo sites. Equally consequential was the elimination of Iran's military high command. Amongst those reportedly killed are General Hosseini Salami, Commander-in-Chief of Islamic Republic Guard Corps, or the IRGC, and several other senior figures responsible for Iran's missile and drone program. Also amongst those killed were 2 nuclear scientists and a member of Iran's nuclear negotiation team. These precision strikes follow years of covert operations and mounting tensions. The timing appears calculated. The expiration of President Trump's 60 days deadline for nuclear negotiations with Iran removed a key diplomatic restraint, while a scathing censor by International Atomic Energy Agency highlighting Tehran's effort to conceal nuclear activities provided further justification for action. Israel, emboldened by years of successful unilateral operations against Hamas, Hezbollah, and other Iranian proxies, may have seen a strategic window that it feared might soon close. Now, Iran, though not a dominant oil exporter, it contributes just about 4% of global supply. But its strategic position is critical. The real risk isn't just about output, it's about geography. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most vital energy arteries, lies in the crosshair. Nearly 20% of global crude oil passes through this narrow checkpoint. If the conflict spills over into this corridor, this could send energy markets into a chaos, driving up oil prices and bringing inflation soaring high back into already fragile global economy. And there's more at stake. The broader Middle East accounts for nearly a third of world's oil production. If regional players like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, or even Iraq are drawn into this conflict, the global energy equation could shift overnight. That means ripple effect across trade routes, global supply chains, and investor sentiment can be large.
The escalating Israel-Iran conflict threatens to choke vital global energy routes, pushing oil prices higher and shaking world trade. Disruptions could spike shipping and insurance costs, hitting global supply chains and showing economic growth, especially for energy-dependent sectors. Aviation is already impacted with occasionally airspace closures over Iran, Iraq, Jordan, forcing constantly reroutes for major airlines. For India, with over 80% of its Europe-bound trade passing through the Red Sea, the risk of delays, higher freight rates, and inflationary pressures is significant. High energy prices, supply disruptions, and tighter trade margins could ripple across key sectors like manufacturing, aviation, consumer goods, and exports globally.
Iran now faces a multifaceted crisis. Militarily, the loss of senior commanders and its critical infrastructure has dealt a blow to its ability to mount coordinated and proportionate response. While Tehran has launched retaliatory missile strikes, some reaching Tel Aviv, its options are constrained by extensive damage inflicted on its air defense and missile bases. Going by various analysts, diplomatically and strategically, Iran is at a crossroads. It retains some capacity to retaliate through its remaining proxy networks, but these groups have been severely weakened by Israeli and Western operations since October the 7th. The prospect of full-scale war with Israel, possibly drawing in the United States and its allies, makes retaliation a dangerous gamble. These experts further opine that complicating the matter further is Iran's nuclear trajectory. With its enrichment program exposed and disrupted, the regime must decide whether to pursue a nuclear breakout in defiance of the Non-Proliferation Treaty or adhere, at least nominally, to international norms. The IAEA's findings suggest Iran has already breached key obligations, and outright withdrawal from NPT could provoke a new level of international isolation and invite further military action.
In the strategic community, there is a widespread consensus that the domestic fallout inside Iran is just as explosive. This wasn't just a military strike, it was a direct hit into regime's credibility. The failure to protect its most critical nuclear and military assets, the loss of senior commanders at the highest levels, and very real possibility that its decade-long nuclear ambition is now in ruins. All have shaken the foundation of Iran's leadership.
With economic strain worsening, civil military tensions rising, the public disillusionment is growing. Iran faces a combustible mix that could spark wider unrest. Some regional watchers say this strike was about more than degrading weapons. It may be a calculated move to create internal fractures, setting the stage for something far more disruptive, that is, regime change from within. As Tehran reels, the world is now watching not just for retaliation but for signs that the political ground under Iran's leadership may be shifting.
Trump has urged Iran to return to the negotiating table, aiming for a final resolution to the nuclear issues and suggesting possible high-level US engagement. Iran, however, firmly rejects talks under attack, viewing current strikes as pressure tactics by the US and Israel to force concessions. Economic hardships, inflation, sanctions, and looming questions over leadership are fueling potential power struggles within Iran's ruling system. Going forward, Iran's leadership faces a defining moment, whether to uphold its hardline stance or gradually move towards pragmatic reforms and mounting internal and external pressures.
From Israel's perspective, these attacks represent both a defensive necessity and a strategic opportunity. Its recent track record in neutralizing threats from Hezbollah and Hamas has emboldened its policymakers. By targeting the core of Iran's military leadership and nuclear apparatus, Israel may be seeking to permanently degrade Iran's capacity to project power across the region. The Western analysts believe that Israel has shown restraint. Ayatollah Khamenei and Iran's political leadership has not yet been targeted. Nor were the key economic sites like oil refineries were targeted in the first wave. However, Israeli officials have indicated that these options remain on the table should Iran escalate with attacks on civilian or strategic targets inside Israel. The United States, while supportive of Israel's right to self-defense, has taken a cautious approach. President Trump has publicly praised the Israeli operation and warned Iran against escalation, but he also emphasized that US would only become involved militarily if American interests or personnel were directly threatened. This stance echoes past episodes, like that in year 2007 when the Israeli Air Force struck the Syria's nuclear reactor. Where Washington chose not to intervene directly but allowed its ally to act.
Israel's strike on Iran have shattered long-held assumptions about the balance of power in the Middle East. With surgical precision and strategic boldness, Israel has shown it's not just willing but fully capable of hitting the core of most dangerous adversary. For Iran, the road ahead is fraught with painful choices, either to seek peace or continue with retaliation, or to rally nationalist fervor or embrace cold realism, to clinch to ideology or prioritize survival. But this moment goes far beyond Tehran and Tel Aviv. From the ripple effect on global oil market to fate of nuclear non-proliferation, from protests simmering in Iran's streets to heightened alert levels across the Gulf, every capital is watching, calculating and preparing. The Middle East now stands at an inflection point. In the coming days, it will either slide towards a wider regional war or begin to reshape its security architecture for the entire generation. One thing is certain, the rules of engagement in Middle East have changed, and so has the world.
West Asia now stands at a critical inflection point. Global players are drawing their lines. The SCO with countries like China, Russia, Iran and Pakistan has firmly condemned Israel's strikes on Iranian territory. But India has chosen a different path. Breaking away from the SCO, India has positioned itself firmly as neutral, urging restrained dialogue and peace. India's call echoes its long-standing global image, a supporter of diplomacy, a believer in balance and a consistent advocate for peaceful resolution. As the region teeters, future questions now rise. Will Iran's leadership hold firm, or will internal pressures push it towards change? Can the United States and regional powers steer this crisis back to the negotiating table? Or are we watching the first sparks of broader uncontrollable conflict? How will India's neutral stance impact its ties with both Israel and Iran in long run? For now, one thing is clear. What happens next in West Asia could redraw the diplomatic, security and trade maps far beyond the region. With video journalist Manoj, Nancy Baloda for DD India.
What does this mean for the region? The full picture is still coming into focus, but one thing is already clear. Israel's strikes have dramatically redrawn the security map of Middle East in less than 2 years.
The Israelis will not accept several hundred bombs landing on them from Iran.
As analyst E.D. Hussain puts it, we are witnessing the collapse of multiple Iran-aligned regimes and proxies, and the emergence of more unified bloc of United States-aligned powers, including key Gulf states, working to uphold a security architecture that Tehran has long sought to dismantle. In effect, Israel's operations may have strengthened, not fractured, the dominant American-led security structure in the region. Yes, the risk of wider regional war remains, but with Iran's ability to retaliate now is in serious doubt. It's unclear whether they even are in a position to escalate meaningfully. So what comes next? A new, perhaps fragile stability, or a more unpredictable, volatile order governed by new rulers? The next few weeks will reveal which way the pendulum swings. In the flared-up tensions between Iran and Israel, this time the ripples may not stop at West Asia. The impact could reach far and wide, including here in India. At the heart of global anxiety is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow stretch of water but a mighty artery for world's oil. Nearly one-third of all seaborne crude flows through this choke point every single day. Located between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, the Strait of Hormuz is a narrow sea lane, but it carries enormous strategic weight. Every single day, nearly 20 million barrels of oil passes through the strait. That's one-third of world's seaborne oil. From oil fields of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE and Iran to global markets in Asia, Europe and beyond, this is super highway of energy. India imports over 80% of its oil, and large part of that comes from this strait. For countries like India, China, Japan and the European Union, any disruption here isn't just a regional issue, it's an economic crisis waiting to happen. Geostrategically, it's also a flashpoint Iran has repeatedly threatened to block. During the periods of tension, and in response, United States and its allies maintain a strong naval presence to ensure that it stays open. A blockade or a conflict in the Strait of Hormuz could send oil prices soaring, trigger global inflation, and even paralyze supply chains from energy to trade routes. That's why global powers call it narrow strait of water, a red line for world economy. So while the world focuses on headlines from West Asia, the real story may lie in the waters of Hormuz. Amid fears of wider escalation of the conflict, Iranian retaliation following Israeli strikes are growing in scale and destruction. The United States is making significant military moves in the region. Warships are being repositioned, troops are on alert, and Pentagon is bracing for a possible escalation. In response to the heightened tensions between Israel and Iran, the United States is shifting key military assets across the Middle East. According to media reports, the United States Navy has positioned the USS Thomas Hudner, a destroyer that is equipped to defend against ballistic missiles, and it is now there in the eastern Mediterranean. The second destroyer has also been instructed to move towards this area and be combat ready if White House gives the green light. According to media reports further, the United States Navy stands ready to deploy even more firepower.
The US aircraft carrier Carl Wilson is already in the Arabian Sea, while USS Nimitz, which is currently deployed in the Indo-Pacific region, and George Washington, which is there in Japan, is likely to depart for this conflict zone. So now let's talk about USS Thomas Hudner specifically, as United States has deployed this particular destroyer in the Eastern Mediterranean to help out the Israelis against the ballistic missile attack. But what role this warship plays, how it can help Israel counter the threat of Iranian missiles? Well, so far it is only supporting Israel through non-kinetic means, that is through radar inputs, but it has amazing capabilities if the situation so develops. The USS Thomas Hudner, an Elgar-Book class guided missile destroyer, has been ordered to position itself closer to the heart of conflict zone. Equipped with one of the world's most advanced defense systems, the Aegis combat system, the United States Navy warship is more than just a ship. It's a floating missile shield, and its core is the powerful radar capable of detecting incoming threats like ballistic and the cruise missiles. And the interceptor missiles like SM-3 and SM-6, it can shoot them down even in space or mid-flight. That makes Thomas Hudner a critical first-line defense, intercepting missiles launched towards Israel or even United States troops stationed in the region. Together with Israel's Iron Dome David Sling and Aero system, the USS Thomas Hudner adds another layer of protection, creating a multi-layered missile defense shield.
Media reports say the deployment also serves a strategic purpose. Its forward presence acts as a clear deterrent to Iran, sending message that US is ready to defend its allies and its own assets. The ship is also armed to counter swarm drones and fast attack boats, weapons often used by Iranian-backed groups like the Houthis and the Hezbollah. With missiles and drones flying fast, having mobile advanced shield like USS Thomas Hudner could be a difference between escalation and containment. As the region watches and waits, so does the warship, ready to do anything at command. India's next generation battlefield just got airborne. Rudrastra, an advanced combat drone developed in Nagpur, is changing how India plans to fight future wars. Here's a closer look at the drone that hovers like a chopper, flies like a jet, and strikes with deadly precision. So what is Rudrastra? Rudrastra is a vertically taking off platform. It's a combat drone that vertically takes off and lands, meaning it can lift off like a helicopter and transition into fast forward flight like an aircraft. It's designed for surveillance, precision strikes, and autonomous missions, all without needing a runway. What sets Rudrastra apart? It's fully designed and developed in India by Solar Defence and Aerospace Limited, a private firm based in Nagpur. It's a symbol of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the government's push for self-reliant defence technology. Rudrastra uses a hybrid propulsion system, that is vertical lift motors for takeoff, hover and landing, and fixed wing engines for fast horizontal flight over long distances. This allows it to operate from remote rugged terrains like deserts, forests, and even high mountains. When we talk of mission performance, the mission radius is of over 50 kilometers, total range with loiter time is 170 kilometers, and flight endurance is around 90 minutes. Rudrastra can transmit live video feeds, navigate autonomously, and return to base on its own even if communications are lost. And when we talk about the sensors and navigation suite, it is equipped with high-resolution cameras, real-time video transmission,
GPS navigation, and autonomous route planning. This makes it ideal for border surveillance, reconnaissance missions, or tracking hostile movement. When we talk of precision strike capability, it's real power. The precision strike. Rudrastra can carry anti-personnel smart warheads that detonate mid-air, spreading lethal fragments over wide radius. This airburst technology is perfect for targeting enemy camps, bunkers, or artillery under cover. It has an amazing standoff strike range, which is over 50 kilometers. Rudrastra can attack without ever entering enemy airspace. Indian troops safe while hitting deep into hostile territory. The Indian Army is now preparing for a large-scale deployment of Rudrastra. It's set to be used in desert operations, mountain warfare, and border surveillance, especially in high-risk areas where traditional forces face greater danger. And why it matters? Well, in an age of drone warfare and autonomous strikes, Rudrastra gives India a homegrown edge, combining survivability, precision, and technological independence. From war zone to border patrols, Rudrastra is more than a drone. It's a symbol of India's leap into future warfare, built not just for power, but for precision. This is India, armed for tomorrow. That's all in this episode of Defense Dynamics. Thank you for joining us. Do post your comments with #DD with See you next week, decoding complex defense stories. Till then, goodbye and take care.